This is macOS running on a Windows PC.
I was actually thinking about buying a new MacBook, then I saw the prices and just closed the tab. So I thought, why not install macOS on my Windows PC that I already have? I did some research and it turns out you can actually do this. In this video, I'm showing you exactly how I did this and whether it was even worth it. But it took me 4 days of pain and suffering to get here. So sit back, relax and watch me suffer. Now there are a few different ways to install macOS on a Windows PC, but I went with the most promising and the most used method called Hackintosh. Did you know that Mac was actually called Macintosh in the early days? So that's probably where the name Hackintosh comes from. So what is Hackintosh exactly? Basically, macOS is only supposed to run on Apple's own hardware. Apple checks if you are a real Mac user. If not, it refuses to install. Hackintosh is getting around that check using a tool that tricks macOS into thinking it's real Apple hardware, when really it's just my regular Windows laptop the whole time. The magical tool that Hackintosh uses is called OpenCore, but we are using its child called OpenCore Simplify. As the name suggests, it makes the process simple. This tool scans my PC and tells me if I can run macOS or not by getting me an hardware report of my components. As you can see, my setup is a GTX 1650 with a Ryzen 5 4600H, and it turns out my graphics card is not supported. That's it for the video, guys. Thank you for watching. For a second, I genuinely thought that was it. But then I found out something I had no idea about. My CPU actually has an integrated GPU, basically a tiny graphics card baked right into the processor. Let me actually explain why this mattered so much. NVIDIA GPUs like my GTX 1650 have basically no modern support on macOS. Apple and NVIDIA had a falling out years ago, and Apple just stopped writing drivers for them. So if your only graphics option is an NVIDIA card, you can't install macOS on your Windows PC. But wait, don't just check your graphics card, check if your CPU has an integrated graphics too. That one detail could be the difference between making this possible or not. So we don't need my GTX 1650 at all. Once that was sorted, I checked what macOS version I could actually run. My laptop could easily handle the latest one, which was Tahoe, but I wanted to play it safe and install the older and the more stable version, which was more easier to understand. I did not do that. I went straight for the newest one because apparently I enjoyed pain. Tool builds me something called an EFI folder. Think of it as the instruction manual that tells my PC how to boot into macOS. Also, turns out macOS is extremely picky about how many USB ports it actually recognizes. So there's this whole process where you plug a USB stick into every single port on your laptop one by one, just so a tool can map them all out and figure out which ports actually exist. I actually skipped this step the first time around and my USB just wasn't detected during install and I had to redo it properly. All of us are using AI to build stuff these days. Whether it's apps, websites, tools, whatever it is, AI is writing a huge chunk of that code for us these days. But there is a big problem that nobody talks about. Just because AI wrote it doesn't mean that it's clean, safe and bug-free. That's where today's sponsor comes in, CodeRabbit. But if you have watched my last video with them, you already know what they do. But here's a quick recap. CodeRabbit is an AI that interviews your code before it goes live. Think of it like having a senior developer sitting right next to you, checking every single line and catching bugs, catching security issues, catching stuff that you would never notice on your own. And you don't need to be some expert coder either. I built an habit tracking app and I barely knew what I was doing with my GitHub workflow. CodeRabbit still caught issues in my pull request before I published anything live. It just works in the background and tells you exactly what to fix. And they have also released a new feature in beta that automatically catches the bugs and fixes the issues. So if you want to try it out, the link would be in the description. Anyone who clicks that link gets their Pro Plus plan for completely free to try. So if you're building with AI right now or even vibe coding, this is absolutely worth trying to fit in your workflow. Just click the link in the description or scan this QR code and you're straight into the Pro Plus experience. Go check it out. You will also notice the extension is .kext, which is a fancy name for kernel extension. Think of these as the drivers macOS needs. They are the only way to the heart of the OS. What is this weird script ChatGPT has given me? A Kext is just a driver file. The same way Windows needs a driver to make sure your graphics card or your mouse work properly. macOS needs a Kext to do the exact same job. Every single piece of hardware inside your laptop needs one of these files, telling macOS how to actually use it. No Kext means no functioning hardware. Once all the ports are mapped, you get a file out of it, and that file needs to go straight into the EFI folder. I updated the settings in the config.plist Kext, which is located in the EFI folder, and save the new added changes using OC auxiliary tools. Then we have to make a bootable USB drive using a tool called Rufus. Once that's done, I copy the entire EFI folder onto my pen drive. Okay, but I still needed the actual macOS installer files, which our EFI folder will use to install macOS. There is a script for this too, but first we need to download the official OpenCore PKG. After downloading that, you need to locate a folder called Mac Recovery, and now you have to open CMD in this file location. Now you just run this command. You can find the command for your macOS version on this guide that connects straight to Apple's own server and pulls down the recovery files for whatever version you picked. In my case, Tahoe, but I was not able to find Tahoe in the Windows section. I looked around and I found it in the Linux section. I ran the command and waited for the file to install. Make sure that your internet connection is strong during the download of this file. If it drops, the file would not work. That folder goes into the same pen drive next to the EFI folder. As this is dual boot, I had to shrink my SSD and make a new partition. It is recommended to give at least 50 gigabytes of space to run macOS properly. I went with 100 GB just to be safe. Bootable USB part is now done, and I just have to make some changes in my BIOS. Only two things actually needed changing: disabling secure boot and setting pen drive as the first boot device. Sounds like a 2-minute job. Took me 2 days. My BIOS was just broken. Nothing was saving properly. Some settings weren't even showing up. It was meant to look like this, and it was looking like this. No matter how many times I try, I cannot enter into my BIOS. But I eventually found the fix on some random Reddit thread, and I was so happy, and I definitely didn't cry when it worked. You double tap down on the arrow key and hit enter, then press F9 to fully reset the BIOS. Hours of blood and sweat. I finally managed to get my BIOS running. I am so happy. And just like that, it started working again. Just wanted to let you know that I'm kind of experimenting with my content and trying new things for my audience. So if you guys enjoy this video, do not forget to subscribe. I'm also going to do a face reveal at 10K subscribers. So if you want to see my face for some reason, don't forget to subscribe. Now secure boot is off, USB is set to first boot device, and now I just had to save and restart. And this is the part where my heart was actually pounding, because if any single thing before this was wrong, this is exactly where it will show. After the restart, we will enter into the OpenCore boot menu. There it is, code scrolling down a black screen, line after line, way too fast to read. I have no idea what any of this says, but I know what it means. Whatever I did before this is actually working, and then it crashed. It took me a few Reddit searches to understand that I had to turn off my NootedRed Kext. NootedRed Kext are the drivers for the AMD chipsets, and they are required, but disabling it for the installation and enabling it afterwards is the correct process. I went to the same config.plist file and disabled it using OC auxiliary tools, and then I restarted. And after all of that hard work, it crashed again. But this time I knew everything was correct. So I restarted and rebooted one more time, and it worked. Now everything is done and macOS is now installing. Installation took about 1 hour and it worked. And I can finally see the Apple logo. And now we have to lock in. Only few steps left. I had to format the 100 GB partition I made earlier in this exact file type. And then I clicked to reinstall macOS Tahoe. It said I didn't had internet connection. I needed to connect my laptop with an Ethernet cable or to use Wi-Fi tethering using my phone. As we did the USB MacBook properly, the OS was accepting input and my Wi-Fi worked on the second boot. Then I had to download macOS Tahoe completely from Apple's own server. I went through the setup menu, clicking next for all of the startup questions. I was very excited to see macOS finally installed. All of my excitement was gone when I saw that the interface was very laggy. I didn't panic because I knew it was happening because I disabled NootedRed Kext, which is essential for graphic acceleration. The installation is now completed, and there it is, the beautiful macOS everyone talks about inside my Windows PC. But one last thing, if I pulled out the USB right now and restarted macOS, wouldn't even boot. The install only puts macOS itself on the drive, not the boot instructions. So I had to go back in, copy the EFI folder from the pen drive into my laptop's internal drive too. I also had to re-enable NootedRed Kext, that exact thing that I just turned off. And after that, the memory jumps from 7 MB of RAM to 500 MBs, actually usable. Only then I can pull off the USB for good. In the next video, we'll try some stuff out in the macOS on Windows. So here's my honest takeaway. If you have got a graphics card and a CPU that is compatible with Hackintosh, things like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, everything, then go for it. But if your macOS version doesn't support any real graphics power to begin with, then there is not much point. You won't be doing any heavy work on it anyway. But if your system checks out, it's genuinely one of the most fun and frustrating things I've ever tried out. So maybe give it a try.
Now the question is, would I actually use macOS instead of Windows? The answer is yes and no. And the main reason is being that my graphic card is not supported. And without my graphics card, I cannot do a lot of things in macOS. If my graphics card was supported, I will completely switch to macOS instead of using Windows on that laptop, because I already have a Windows machine right here. And there are tons of things that you cannot do properly on Mac, just like gaming and stuff, which I love to do. But I can still show it to my friends and flex that I'm running 2 operating systems on my laptop, but I don't think so anyone would care. By the way, I've also built a complete guide for Hackintosh, so if you guys want to check it out, the link would be also in the description, and do not forget to check out CodeRabbit. And that is it for this video. Hope you enjoyed, hope you have subscribed, and I will see you guys in the next one.